Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Today I'd like to talk to you about the spiritual heart. The spiritual heart has nothing to do with the usual emotions that people often attribute to the heart, the suffering involved in sadness, grief, and longing for what you don't have. The broken heart that's so often spoken about is a reference to the emotional side of human beings, emotions that stem from believing certain thoughts without question. The heart that I'm speaking about doesn't experience the usual human emotions, but joy, love, peace, and compassion for the emotions of the human heart. Human emotions are created by your human self, by your conditioning and your ego, while the emotions of the heart, such as love, peace, and joy, if you could call them that, and I prefer not to, come from your true self, your divine self. There's nothing wrong with human emotions. They're natural, programmed responses to programmed thoughts. But most of you are ready to see beyond this level of humanity and experience yourself as you truly are and truly can be, as your divine self. Isn't it funny that you are both human and divine in one package? That is as it's meant to be, but it's also meant for you to wake up out of the suffering caused by the programming that makes you human. Notice I say that programming causes you to be human. The same isn't true about your divine self. The divine self is the true self, who you are, while the human self is created by programming. You are programmed with a certain personality, as represented by the astrology chart, and you're programmed to have certain emotions and beliefs. These beliefs are based on the ego's perceptions, and those perceptions result in the particular human emotions you experience. The ego itself is programming, and it's programmed to have certain perceptions and emotions. It perceives life and itself as lacking, and it fears life. And this sense of lack and fear lead to all sorts of other emotions: jealousy, anger, resentment, hatred, and shame. This is your default programming, and it's the source of human suffering. The ego's perceptions are incorrect, and its emotions, consequently, are not accurate or helpful responses to reality. They make a mess of one's life. The ego's mistaken perceptions and beliefs are responsible for all human emotions. For instance, sadness exists because you assume something shouldn't have happened, and you're attached to something being other than the way it is. Anger's the same. You're angry because you assume someone or something shouldn't be as it is, when in fact, it is that way. This makes no sense from a rational perspective, but the ego is not rational. All the painful emotions you experience come from such faulty perceptions and beliefs. This creates a world of suffering. People suffer over their own self-generated suffering, and they cause other people to suffer as well. The beliefs you've been programmed with, your ego's beliefs, cause you to suffer, and nothing else. Without those beliefs, you could not suffer. And so it is with those who are enlightened. They don't experience emotions in the same way most people do, and so they no longer suffer. You could say they experience a mild version of emotions, a remnant of what they once experienced. But that emotion isn't enough for it to be believed and suffered over or acted upon. Life changes once you see through the egoic programming and really see the cause of your suffering. What do you suffer over? What are the things in your life that cause you to suffer? Do you want someone to behave differently toward you or in general? Do you want more money, better health, more beauty, more friends, a more interesting job, more youth, a better partner? You may even want all of these things. Take a moment to answer this question. What causes you to suffer? What do you wish would be different? This question was probably really easy to answer. You know very well what you suffer over, because this consumes a lot of your mental energy. You long for, imagine, plan, and strategize how to get what you want. This is largely what people's thoughts are about, and these thoughts are what keep people from actually being present in life. And why would being present be important? Because life is unfolding its plan for you right now, in this moment, and so it's good to pay attention to what's coming out of the flow. Life is doing your life. You are not really doing your life. You make some choices that determine what happens to you to some extent, but the impact of such choices on life is small in comparison to what life is creating on your behalf. You are not creating your life, not by yourself anyway. You are co-creating it with larger forces, and even saying this exaggerates your importance, for your actions fall within the parameter that life sets for you. Life sets the parameters within which you move and create, and your free will can only operate within those limits. Everyone has set parameters that are determined by their soul. Your soul chooses what you'll look like, where you'll be born, what family you'll be born into, what opportunities will present themselves, how intelligent and talented you are, and even who you will meet. This is not to say that your life is predetermined or that your free will isn't important, for your will truly is a shaper of your life. For instance, if you're meant to work with children, you can choose any number of professions that serve children, but the way won't be made clear for you to be in a profession that doesn't involve children, and if you try to be, you'll be very unhappy or unsuccessful, or both. Life is living you, and this you has only so much say about what that looks like. This should be somewhat of a relief. All you have to do is live the life you're meant to live. You don't have to live some ideal or imagined life, or an idea that someone else like a parent has for your life. You don't have to be like someone else. In fact, you won't ever be like someone else, because you're meant to be uniquely you. So the work of this life is to be who you are meant to be in this lifetime, to live the life you are meant to live. Now it's important that you don't take this to mean that you have to fit some preordained image of you and your life as designed by your soul. There is no preordained image. Things are not laid out so specifically by your soul before your lifetime. Let me repeat, there is no preordained image of you and your life. This should also be a relief. No one is expecting you to do anything but be true to your soul's plan, and that can look many, many different ways. Your soul is fascinated to discover exactly how your free will do this within the parameters it's set for you. Given this, you can see how silly it is to suffer over wanting to look different or wanting to have different skills or different experiences or different people in your life, when life is living you as it intends to, and you're already exactly as you're intended to be. To want things to be other than the way they are just interferes with you living the life you're given in this moment to live. Letting go of wanting things to be different doesn't mean your life won't change. Everyone's life changes profoundly over their lifetime, just naturally. Life is a journey, and it's constantly changing, constantly bringing you new opportunities, people, and experiences. And all you have to do is notice what life's bringing you and say yes to what makes your heart sing. So we're back to the heart. The spiritual heart is not the creator of emotions, as I said, but more like a GPS guidance system that tells you through joy and through a sense of no to go in a particular direction or not go in a particular direction. This guidance system doesn't deliver its guidance through the voice in your head, but through a subtle, energetic sense of yes, expansion, joy, and excitement. What a happy situation this is! The choices you're supposed to make in life will naturally feel good and right, while the choices that aren't aligned with your soul won't feel good or right. This is simple enough, except that people have a voice in their head that often argues with this guidance system, because the ego has a different set of values than the soul. Living the life you're meant to live means following your joy and doing this consistently. The more consistently you follow your joy, the smoother and happier your life will be. This makes sense, doesn't it? So another reason to stop listening to the voice in your head, besides the fact that it creates painful emotions, is that it often misleads people. The voice in your head pretends to have the answers, as do other people's voices in their heads, but it doesn't. As convincing as this voice may sound, and as convincing as other people's voices may sound, the voice in your head doesn't have the answers to how to live your life. Only the spiritual heart does. As people evolve spiritually, they become more attuned to the spiritual heart, better able to hear it, and more willing to follow it, and that makes their life much easier. Those who are struggling most in life are those who are most entranced by the egoic mind. But that's just how it is. Everyone eventually evolves beyond this stage of evolution and becomes freer and happier. Those of you listening to these messages are on an accelerated path because the truth surely does set you free, and it can set you free pretty quickly, depending on how dedicated you are to seeing the truth and weeding out the falseness inherent in your thoughts, the egoic mind. The more diligent you are about examining your thoughts for the untruths, half-truths, which are also lies, and inconsistencies, the weaker the programming becomes. Every time you see the truth about something you once believed, you poke a hole in the illusion spun by the false self, and eventually that illusion can't hold together. Just as the scenery in a play that gets one hole in it after another eventually can no longer be believed, once you've seen through enough of the ego's mistaken perceptions, you stop believing the voice in your head. This voice may not be altogether muted, but it can no longer affect you as it did. And when this voice is no longer believed, you'll no longer feel anger or hatred or shame or fear or sadness in the way that you did. Your emotions also become muted, not completely, but they no longer cause you to suffer, and you stop using them as a bludgeon to get your way. Then what's left is noticing what life is bringing you in this moment, because you've clearly seen that all you have is now and this beautiful life that is unfolding in this perfect moment. Thank you for being here in this moment with me. I am with you always.